podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You're listening to RAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. As you can tell by the voice, I am not Lee G, nor am I Jamie. Jamie is getting a well-deserved break from being a Dragons fan, and Lee is going through some personal things at the moment. If you've listened to the United Rugby Rewind, sort of explains that in detail. So I'm Harley in the hot seat. I am joined by James as ever. How you doing, James?
Yep, good, thank you. Same as always.
And for those on you on the video feed, no, we are not joined by Jesus, but we are joined by the Jesus of the community game out west. It's Big M. How are you doing, Big M?
Well, I'm doing a lot better after that introduction. I don't mind that, you know. I've been compared to a lot of players, but never Jesus. I like that one. Yeah, I'm good. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, just trying to make you feel nice because, you know, you're Scarlet and you need charity sometimes.
Hang on a minute, they're the only ones doing well. They don't need charity.
I've got to get the digger somewhere. So we're skipping drink of the week this week because James left his Sprite with the baby and Big M has a Yazoo.
No, I promise
I do
I'm
have
not
a
an
beer,
irresponsible father. I would just like to point this out. The baby doesn't have the Sprite. They just left it next to the cot where we were putting him down.
Just wait till you get to the point of trying to fight off the family, trying to feed it various forms of alcohol because they think it's funny.
Yeah, won't take long.
Right, so we're going to move. I said we're skipping drink of the week. We'll move swiftly on to the news. So, in terms of Team Wales news, Ben Carter's out, Teddy Williams in due to a knee injury. Yet another Gatland breaking a player before they even get a chance to play a game. It's not really a huge amount to be said there. Don't think there's anyone else we'd throw in. All the rest, all the other options are injured, really.
Yeah, I think it's not a like-for-like replacement, which is a bit gutting. I think Carter has really benefited from that time off. He's put on quite a few kegs. I think he's performing better. He does the tight fire work a lot better, and ultimately he's a leader, which is, you know, what Wales need is more leaders, and he's leading the Dragons. You know, results aside, I think he's leading the side very well. And you know, Teddy Williams is a very capable player. You know, you can argue was unfortunate to miss out on the squad, but you know, well deserved call up.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in terms of Carter, obviously unlucky to the guy, but just looking at our stock at second row, you know, I can't really see it, you know, much further than Rowlands and Beard being our starting combo, and then obviously he wants Freddie Thomas capped as well. So you're looking at it's only going to be maybe 60 minutes worth of rugby, you know, even possibly being played. So not the end of the world, but obviously, you know, well done Teddy Williams getting back in there.
Yeah, I mean, as from a Cardiff fan, I kind of thought he should have been the Wales squad, but a big selfish part of me thought he's played an awful lot of minutes already. It would have been quite nice for him to have these few weeks off.
But as I said on X, who does he get called up for? Because if you call him up, you've got to drop someone.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, and I think me and Dan talked about it quite extensively. We thought initially with Teddy Williams, it was he probably missed out because they wanted the cat Freddie Thomas.
Yeah, that's.
I think if he wasn't sort of in the conversation, you probably would have seen him there as your sort of hybrid. I know a couple of people are asking about James Ratty, but I mean, he has been injured. I don't know if he's now fit, but he was injured.
Yeah, well, he was on rest protocol. Now and then he was injured. So, again, one who's unlucky to miss out. I think you can argue that if he was fit and firing, Rhys Davis fits that mold. Probably a bit less athletic than Freddie Thomas. So, but yeah, I think Freddie Thomas was always going to be capped. Who was the other one? Someone said, Chris Chinzer. Again, Gatland likes him. He's massive. Like that, you know. Yeah, we're quite blessed in
his role as well, which is he is a bit of a dog and a workhorse, which is quite good. Instead of, so I know everyone was disappointed he wasn't this big ball carrier. I suppose it's a bit similar to what you guys discuss on Saucepans and Sidesteps with the Khan Tupeloto. Like, you know, they realise he's not this big flashy eight. He's just a grafter, and you do need that in your team.
Yeah, and he does that job very well. Fair to play to Carwin. I mean, in terms of Wales, I understand the need to cap Freddie Thomas, just block that out for the next 3 years or however long it is now. But I'm not a big fan of having multiple non-Wales based players in the same position. I think we got 3 at lock now, so it's a little bit dodgy, but it's not too much of an issue in the autumn. But just overall, it's not something I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, I mean, it can always be a bit of a problem, especially with Gatman's love of having lots of people at training. Moving on to the regions then. So we've got Di Flanagan's been relieved of his position as head coach at the Dragons. Sort of, it looks almost like they saw what happened with Munster and thought, oh, we can do that too, and sacked him. If you want to have detailed opinions on that, Jamie and Gav did do an emergency pod on Dragon's Lair. Go and talk about it. But just quickly, gentlemen, do you think maybe a bit too premature to sack him? Do you think it was just was the right time?
Go on, Matt, you go first.
He's had a tough time since being there. He's still a young coach. What has he had? 2 full seasons, and he hasn't had a full coaching team around him for those 2 years. I mean, he's finally got a bit of backing, with the numbers in that coaching team, and they get rid of him after the first block. I don't understand it. If you're going to go out and back a young coach, you've got to give him minimum 3 to 5 years. I mean, I'm not happy with the position we were in last season as a Scarlets with Dwayne Peel, but the board has said he's a young first-time head coach. We're giving him these years. You've got to grit through it, and with the Dragons, they're actually playing a better style of rugby, a better standard. You could see the ring game. So I don't understand it when they say in results-based business, because they haven't had the results for years.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I think everything Mark's saying is right, actually, in regards to he's not even 40 yet, he's 39. Like that's a baby for a coach. How many full-time coaches are under 40 now? Christ, Justin Tipuric will be one next year. He's 30. Think how close him and Di Flan are in age. One's still a player, one's a coach. It's mental, I think. With regards to, you're absolutely right. They've brought a coaching team around him. Is he getting the best out of that squad? Is ultimately the thing. I do think the results-based business is true. He's got a 20% win record. Only 10 wins. And most of them are against the Ospreys. So it's. I see why they've done it. My issue is what's your wider plan? Because if your plan is to keep Philo Tiatia, then he's not got a proven track record as a head coach, right? No one could have made the Sunwolves good, right? No one. And he struggled elsewhere. And I love Philo. Philo's in my top 5 Ospreys players of all time. Favorite players to watch, but is he the man to take the Dragons forward? But then you got, who else is there? Who else is going to take on that job? Because they can't afford to buy anyone out of their deal. They can't afford Graham Roundtree. They can't. Do you look at I've forgotten his name. It'll come back to me. But do you look at a young Welsh coach? Do you tempt Stephen Jones back over from New Zealand? No, sorry, not New Zealand. Moana Pacifica.
Well, that is in New Zealand, to be fair.
Based. But do you tempt him back over, saying do you want to be a head coach? So my whole thing is that, and we're in a similar position where we got we're not got rid of, but our head coach is leaving. But the succession plan. It feels very knee jerk, but not in a knee jerk like Munster way where they can go out and sign a huge coach. It's a knee jerking. You're the Dragons. Who are you bringing in that's going to steer that ship?
Yeah, I mean, for the Dragons there again, they did point out that not only is it a matter of who could the Dragons afford, but who would actually want to go and coach the Dragons. There's almost a bit of a poison chalice with all the current issues. I mean, personally, I didn't think Di Flan was doing too bad a job. You could definitely see the improvement, but he was allegedly given a target of three wins in those first 6 games, and he didn't do it. And at some point, you've got to say that's enough. I think he just didn't have time. I do wonder if they managed to get over the line against the Sharks and also probably have a slightly better showing against Connacht, then maybe 1 or 2 wins would get him through that bit. But obviously we don't want to lose any coaches to lose their jobs, but that's the way it is sometimes. Anything else you guys want to add in terms of the news section? We've got rumours.
Yeah, so rumor-wise, it's been reported that talks between Cardiff and Joe Hawkins are pressing ahead. It's fair to say that the young back hasn't set the world alight at Exeter. I think it's just not worked out. I know he spends a lot of time back in Pontardawe. But yeah, it hasn't worked out. So Cardiff are pressing ahead. It does say that other Welsh clubs are interested in him. I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Jones was looking at him as a coach, but Cardiff are the ones that are said to be in the hot seat, which suggests that one of Tinas De Beer, Rory Jennings are off. Would you say, Harley?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of, if not both. I mean, he does fit the mold of what we want as a 12, but also kind of as he's a bit more physical as a 10. I mean, he hasn't really played any 10. I think even for like Exeter in the Prem Cup,
I don't think he's played 10 at all for Exeter.
He might have stepped in more than an emergency, more than actually playing 10. And even at Exeter, I wouldn't say he's necessarily that playmaking 12. They used him a bit more as just a very less effective Ollie Devoto battering ram.
Well, people forget that he wasn't a 10 primarily at the Ospreys. He was an emergency 10 who stepped in at Sale away. So yeah, I'm just checking me. I think he's only ever started at 10 once in his career. Everything else has been inside centre.
Yeah, I think a lot of the 10 talk though does come from like Gatland and Neil Jenkins saying, yeah, we see him as a 10, but I think that's just them wanting a big physical lump at 10.
Yeah,
don't necessarily think that always works. Especially if you do have a diminutive 10 who can actually hold their own in defence.
Yeah, it's also been reported that Montpellier have completed a deal to sign Adam Beard. The Ospreys lock is out of contract at the end of the year and is said to join Montpellier, who are going through some bit of a rebuild, who are also linked to the likes of Finlay Christie, Lennox and Yanwu, just to name a few. He made his debut in 2015. He's amassed well over 100 games for the Ospreys. He's got 129 games for the Ospreys, 58 caps for Wales, which means he can play for Wales if he's called upon, and of course is a Test Lion as well. Mark, what's your opinion on that? Because I think that took you by surprise there.
Not so much surprise. It's just thinking of the type of player Adam Beard is. I wouldn't have thought the top 14 is best suited for him. But I suppose when you have got that many bulking forward, you can have, a lock who can do the fancier things rather than just pure grunt, which is, something which I think people have a lot of, negativity towards Adam Beard about. They don't see him as a pure grunty lock. He's very much, someone who links with the back line, like your traditional 7s or 8s.
Very good skill set on him.
Yeah.
As a second,
I mean, I'm not a massive fan of Adam Beard as a lock, but I can see what he does do. And depending on the role he's given with Montpellier, then it's either going to work out tremendously well or it's going to knock him back a little bit. Be interesting to see which way it goes. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in you spend your first, let's say you're 20 when you get your first sort of appearances, you spend a good 6-7 years here, you bugger off to France, England, wherever it is for 2 seasons, let some young boys get some experience, and then you come back an even better player. The sort of mold that we saw, with Stephen Jones done it and Jonathan Davis at the Scarlets, where they went away for 2-3 years.
Dan Lydia went to Racing Metro.
Exactly.
I think, Harley, I'll come on to you in a second. I think Adam Beard falls into a category that the likes of Costello fall in that he gets pelters online, like properly properly abused. And I don't think the abuse around Adam Beer gets talked about enough because it's not in that frontline position of 10 where you are directly responsible. I think because people don't see Adam Beard making the massive runs that other locks do, he gets pelters, and I think it's completely wrong. No one can say he's never put less than 100% effort into any jersey that he's wore. So Harley, what's your thoughts on that?
I was going to say, the other thing that Adam Beard does have going for him, he is a fantastic technical set piece lock, which is something
Yeah.
they do like in France. You're right. I mean, he's never been that grunty workhorse. He's always played best when you've had, like, I think him and Will Rowlands has been one of our best lock partnerships for quite a while, since probably like early Alan Jones and like Ian Goss sort of thing. Because I do think, especially towards the end of his career, Alan Jones went away from proper tight head lock play, and then you had two sort of locks trying to do fancy wide channel things, and it sort of messes up your balance. Particularly with Gatland's preference to have his props doing a lot of the ruck work and not so much carrying. So, Welsh packs have always looked really unbalanced, but in the Ospreys, you can see it's great because they've got lots of people who will truck the ball up, and it allows Adam Beard to do what he does best, which is link play, set piece. Yeah, and he does offer that bit of leadership, which is always useful. I do want to know what crime he's committed, though, if he's going to Montpellier.
I've seen his dancing, so there's probably
is it just crimes against dance? Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's not so bad.
He's also, which the French love, fucking massive. He's
He's
6'8", 19 stone. Like they don't come around very often.
Well, I mean, you could just change one number there and you got me. 5'8", 19.
You should have said 6'9", Mark. We wouldn't have known the difference.
I gotta be truthful somewhere.
Oh, no one's going to believe a proud prop is 6'9".
Right.
If anything, I was expecting you to say you were shorter, just to really say, yeah, no one can get lower than me.
I think people get scared if when you drop below 5'8", I think I'll go play scrum half. I think that's the territory you're at. Like,
yeah, I'm in this weird in between of I'm sort of slowing down so rapidly that I haven't to push second row, but I am only 5'10". Wow. So I think I'm gonna have to go get the same get 5'10" wide, and then I think I'll be able to pull it off.
I think I'll have to go back to under 14s, and the last time I had a second row that small.
You'd be surprised if in non-division second team rugby, it's fine. Also, our club captain for the ones is like 6'4" and 20 odd stone, so he's almost professional rugby dimensions with pure amateur appetite.
Oh, nice! It's the way to do it.
Yeah, fantastic captain. Oh God, you don't want to be counter-up by him because you feel it the next morning. Anyway, so the last bit of news I want to talk about, we've mainly discussed it in a special episode of the Women's Pod, but obviously news broke by Fee Thomas on Thursday about more alleged bullying in the Wales women camp. Pressure, rumours go around of being given 3 hours to sign contracts, or Wales were going to be withdrawn from the World Cup. Ewan Cunningham, not Ewan Lloyd. Ewan Lloyd has done nothing wrong, Ewan Cunningham was allegedly pressuring the women to sign new contracts over in thing. WRU refused things like giving them boot money. Abby Tierney reportedly didn't want to pay for travelling reserves. Frankly, all just really nasty, and just almost say makes people wonder, has anything actually changed since the report came out last year?
Yeah, nothing. I mean, I want to make it that I don't think they're rumours or even alleged anymore, because the WRU haven't come out and said this isn't true, that's not true. They've come out and said sorry. Unless you bang on the money, they normally stick their 2 pence in and go, that didn't happen. I mean, it's a disgrace. I mean, we talk about how underfunded the men's game is. The women's is just not even close to be comparative levels. I mean, you could literally put 2 million into the women's game and you could get 2 of the best club sides in the world, an amazing national setup, and that's not even 50% of what each region gets. It's just stupid how they match up to each other. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, some of the ones, like the thing with the boots, and you're just like, you're getting all this news after the WRU posted out possibly the worst unboxing video ever of members of the Wales squad going through their coat, through their stash, to the point of then Carter's going, "What, another coat?" And just like, and you won't give them you won't give them what, £100 each for boots?
I don't know, like you see it with the girls from Britain. Obviously, these are the same ones now. The girls of Britain and Gwalia last year, they were posting online looking for boot sponsors and things like that. You're just thinking, this is supposed to be the elite level of our women's game. If you can't cater to that, you obviously don't care. There's no ifs or buts. You just don't want to do it because you can do it. There's an easy enough way to find a way around it. I mean, the same as where these contracts, what was it, 30 odd contracts for for the Wales players. Now, I still don't understand that. I'd rather you said just chuck half of them for Gwalia, half of them for Britain, and then you just pick who you want, because you're going to end up in a position where you've got a couple girls who are not contracted who are awesome. So then you've got to leave some of the ones you're paying on the sidelines, and then inevitably you've got to pay the ones you're bringing in. Nothing makes sense.
And even then, the contracts, I mean, is it 24, ranging from 24 to 30k, and it's only going to be your Al Cows, your Jazz Joyces and Hannah Joneses who are getting on the 30, and even then that's only just above the median wage in Wales. And and similar to the men, when they say the men should be earning a bit more money because it's a short career and they're ruining their bodies. Well, the same goes, if not sometimes more so, for the women, with the increased prevalence in ACL injuries. And some of them have to pay for those reconstructions themselves.
Well, I know they say you can ruin your life, playing rugby, especially when you're professional at, even more extreme strength, speed, etc., etc. But, you take a bad injury in your midsection to a woman, and, I know you can say the same for a man, if you take a shot to the, genital area, but, you're risking, your chance of a family. There's so many other things that you add on top, and it's just baffling how you can treat one lot so badly, and okay, you're treating the other lot badly as well, but nowhere near to.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where all this is, we had all the stories about the WRU, their latest attempts to dip into the region's pockets, player wise more than money wise, because we haven't collectively got a pot to piss in. But and then you see the women, you're like, oh wow, we're actually getting the good treatment. I mean, the WRU have refuted that this was sexism. I'm kind of leaning on that because I feel like the W will try and will rip anyone off if they can get away with it. I don't think it's necessarily because they're women. It's just they thought they could get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that totally. I still think there's an element of it there just because of the people that are there. Like, vast majority of the people who were involved in all this sexism scandal, etc., are still there, still board members, still working. So you don't change mindsets of people, of the same people. It takes years to do that, and even then, you're going to fall back into the same trap unless you clear house. There's still going to be lingering, issues there, and not even lingering issues, just all the issues that they had are still there right now. And saying sorry after you've been caught, it shouldn't have been a case to say sorry in the first place. It's just pathetic.
Absolutely. James, anything you want to add to this?
Depends. Do we want advertisers to look at us in a kind and friendly way?
It depends. Is the WRU one of our advertisers?
I think it's just there's nothing more I can say that I don't want to take away from the amazing voices of women's rugby out there. Like, go look at Ella Ferguson, go look at Jess Hayden, go look at Sian, go read the voices of women who support the game, because they can only explain it as well as they can explain it better than I can, right? I'm relatively new to the women's game as a fan, through, and I'm quite lucky that I can get really close to it, with my job. And you can see how hard these girls work as mothers, as people who work, and as rugby players, right? And as fans, we see the internationals, right? You see, I'll use England for example. You see your Ellie Kilduns, you see your Sarah Hunters, you see your Scarretts, right? And you see these superstars who are essentially like their male equivalents. But what you don't see then is, unless you're a super fan, you don't see what Al Cal was doing with no contract at Britain. You don't see what the girls at Gwalia are doing right now. You don't see the semi-pro ones in the PWR. We're lucky. We're lucky as super noses that we understand this, but the general public don't. So things like this only expose the WRU. Only expose the WRU for being incompetent. So my take is go read the voices of other thoughts and words of the great women's rugby content creators out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, also please do listen to the Women's Rap Chat. Sean and Julia have had a lot to say about this.
Sean having a lot to say. I don't believe it.
Yeah,
She's not.
yeah.
She is the best type of Cardiff fan on Blue Sky, in that she makes me want to hate her because she's so passionate about Cardiff, but it's so likable. I love it.
I mean, to be fair, she kind of has to. It's sort of in her actual DNA with half of her family playing for Cardiff.
Really?
Yeah, Sean's that she is, yeah, full on. She
Bloodline.
is honestly Cardiff born, Cardiff bred.
Wow.
Yeah, I think her dad played international rugby as well.
That's like me finding out that Hugh Bonneville, who's in Paddington, was actually born in Paddington. So it's like your birthright.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to move on. Obviously, this podcast mainly about the men's game in Wales. So we'll go on to the upcoming fixture against Fiji. But first of all, if you are enjoying this podcast, please do like, share, subscribe, leave kind reviews on the on your whatever podcasting app you choose. And if you could give us a subscribe on YouTube, because it's close, we're pushing on 1,000 subscribers. Once we hit 1,000, we'll stop nagging, because YouTube will start paying us money for all the ads they put on there then. All right, so moving on to the Fiji game. I'm just going to open it up to the floor, but what would you guys like to discuss? I mean, for me, it's just going to be pain.
Pain.
Pain. What? House of
Watching
Pain? Are they
Wales
playing at
Fiji is
Sardis
always
Road?
painful. I've never had a pleasant experience watching Wales. Even 2011, I didn't have a good time.
I mean, you've got to try and be positive in one way or another. I mean, you never
I'm positive it'll be painful.
Yeah, like even when we're going into the games against the All Blacks, you've still got to try and have that belief that we can actually do it. There's no reason we can't. I mean, I'm more interested in what the 23s are going to be like over the coming weeks, and whether or not we're just going to get another load of crap Gatland style squad who will play one way and play one way quite averagely, especially this time around. Yeah, always going to back the boys to win, even if I don't believe they can do it. I do believe we can roll the line this one. I know we can't really take much from the Scotland-Fiji game because of all their northern boys weren't involved. But it seems to be that, this is very much a winnable game and the winnable game if we are going to pick one up.
Yeah, I agree with that. James, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, obviously we'll see a massively different Fiji side. I think it's really interesting to see how Caleb Muntz went. Assuming he'll be the starting 10 for Fiji. Yeah, I think this is obviously on paper, going by rankings and past history, the easier of the games. I think people can argue currently the Australian one is easier, but I don't believe it. I think if anyone has the chance to turn up more, it's Australia in Cardiff. We've gone through the pain with Fiji, needing a Nicky Robertson drop goal, crashing out in the World Cup. I think they offer so much more around the park now. Physically, they're a different beast. we saw how physical in that World Cup match was. Isn't it like the third most tackles in a match ever Wales made or something like that? It's like something ridiculous like that.
It's the third most from a winning side in a World Cup
Yeah.
in a rugby match.
In a rugby match. It's
And I said
ridiculous.
I think on Squidgy's video about Gatland, he pointed out that I think 4 out of the top 5 tackles completed by the winning side are Wales under Gatland.
I think obviously from a Wales point of view, we're in a better place than we were in the summer selection wise. We've got a lot back. So it'll be really interesting to see where he goes selection wise. I think that'll probably take up the most of our talking will be selection, I'm imagining.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, one thing as well is some of the people who were relatively fresh at the start of this year now had a few more test caps under their belt, which hopefully helps drag that experience overall. But I think welcoming back the likes of Adam Beard and Will Rowlands, huge boost. Nicky Smith rightly should be in that Wales squad, even if he wasn't making it. Yes, I get all the jokes about about him moving to Leicester then getting picked up.
It's a conspiracy.
I think it is probably more the fact that Domachowski was injured. I genuinely think he wouldn't have picked Smith if Domachowski was fit.
I said this
I know
last week.
Big N disagrees with me on this one, but I still think Gatland would have picked him.
I said this last week.
I'm not saying he should have. I'm saying he would have. They're two different, Mark, before you get onto your problem theories. I mean, we basically spoke about the squad last week, so I don't think there's no point going into those. So should we just go straight to selection, I think?
Yeah, Mark, I'm really interested to see who starts for you at prop? Or 1 and 3.
Who starts for me at prop? It's always tricky. But this is not me picking my strongest 15 or my strongest 23. This is the one that I think would be best for us going forward, as in terms of development, getting things settled. I would go for an all-Scarlet front row to start. I'd have Thomas, Lake, and Azarati on the bench. In terms of that, Henry Thomas is our rock. He is the best tight end. I don't even think anyone can challenge that. Yes,
best Welsh tight head currently. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. No. I think no one's gonna.
No, not talking worldies here now.
Yeah.
In terms of loose head, Nicky Smith is in there, but we already know what he can do, same as Gareth Thomas. Gareth Thomas is our number one, so he does deserve to be in. He still needs to be in our match squad. But Matthias is the one that needs the minutes, so that's why I put him in there. And then it just makes sense to put Elias in there. He's the strongest scrummaging hooker that we all know. That's a strong scrummaging front row that you can base off, and then having the likes of Thomas, Lake, and I put Azarati on the bench because, for me, we need to finish the Azarati project before we go on to Griffin. Archie is still a very young player, especially in terms of tight end. I think if you give Azarati another probably 5 starts before the end of the season, we'll know whether or not he can be a starting 3 internationally, whether he's a bench player or if he's a squad player. But we need to find that out now rather than focusing on Griffin, something happening. And then we're like, we're back to the way we were a year ago or 2 years ago.
Interesting.
Yeah, it makes it. The one caveat I will say is Lake is captain, so I imagine he is probably going to be starting.
He's not going to start. Elias.
And then for similar reasons, then I imagine I think we probably will have Gareth Thomas starting and then Matthias off the bench. Although the other argument is there any point bringing Nicky Smith in if you've got to send him home at the weekend? Because I don't know if it's the same as with the Six Nations where English-based players who aren't selected
there's no Premiership. It's just Prem Cup, so they won't be going home.
Same as he'll be a travelling reserve.
Yeah,
I think Henry Thomas. I think because the game is a must-win, right? I think he goes his strongest 23 possible that he knows. I think he'll go Thomas, Lake, Thomas.
Yeah.
Who sounds like a Dragons player from the mid-2000s. T. Reece Thomas, bring him back. But simply because it's a must-win game. I think if we were in the position where we were comfortable. We weren't amazing. I think he starts Matthias like a classic Fiji autumn game where you don't put out your twos, but you put out
One and a half
a
type thing,
rotated team. I think, yeah, as Harley said, Lake is captain. He starts. I think there's, you don't name someone's squad captain and then don't play him. It doesn't show faith, and Gatland's not like that.
Yeah. Like, I'm not naming teams based off Gatland. I'm naming them based off what I would like to see, just to be that clear. I'm not deluded enough to think he's not going to start as captain.
Yeah. Is he going to start Max Douglas and Jack Price as well? Yeah. No, I think
another 5 years maybe.
Yeah. Do we think second row picks it himself?
I think it's got to be really. I can't really see many arguments because I don't think either. I mean, I think you've got Adam and Beard, who probably are Adam Beard and Will Rowlands, who are probably our best locks pairing at the moment. And I wouldn't say either of them are particularly an impact sub. Will Rowlands slightly more.
You've got to say, when you pick a subs bench, right, is what value do they add off the bench? Now, what value does Adam Beard add off the bench? None, because he's not a carrier. He's not a gain line breaker. He's someone who grafts for however long he's on the field. So whether that be 60, whether that be 70, whether that be 80 minutes. And then Will Rowlands is the ball carrier in that pack, the type, who will pick constantly off the ruck. It was said in Robbie's video that Dewi Lake has become Wales's his most used ball carrier. And they want to avoid that. They want, they need other carriers. So I think it's Beard and Rowlands.
Yeah. I mean, again, thinking for myself, I want to finish the game with my strongest 15 on the pitch. Now, I'm not bothered about making subs in the first half. I'm not bothered about making them at 20, 25, 30 minutes. Even if it's a case of, if I want Beard and Rowlands to finish that game, because let's say, for whatever reason, they have a storm in 60, 65 minutes. We put whatever bench option is on, and then it just capitulates. I would rather that capitulation or that possible happen at the first half when you've got that time to recover. I've always been a believer of finishing the game at least as strong as what you start in it. And in the row, it does make it a lot more awkward because obviously you do have Rowlands and Beard who are head and shoulders above the others. And I doubt he's going to bring Freddie Thomas in for this game because obviously first cap, Teddy Williams only just come into camp, so I'm assuming Shuns is going to get the bench spot for that.
Yep, yeah, I agree.
But the thing is, I can see where Shuns are, like when Shuns are coming off the bench, I can see something like an energy increase because you see it with when he plays for Exeter as well. All right, they've not been doing too well this season, but particularly last season, you can see him coming off the bench and things step up in physicality.
Yeah,
when we've had Beard and Rowlands come off the bench in the past, it doesn't give you that same.
Is Shuns a playing lock at Exeter, or is he still playing 6 and 7?
Pretty much after that Six Nations where he was injured, he basically came in and he was in the 19 jersey a lot for a bit, and then he was mainly playing lock. But also Baxter plays effectively a 4-lock pack. So he basically picks locks on his flank. And weirdly, he puts something like Richard Capsick, who's probably a more natural open side in the second row. So he's got that physicality straight off the scrum. And with Shuns being athletic enough and explosive enough, he can get away with it. Yeah. I have many issues about the way Rob Baxter picks a pack. So that's saying back row. I think the personnel probably pick themselves. I have one argument over the order, but I think it's Jack Morgan 7, and then for me, I'd go Wainwright 6, Plumtree 8.
I'd go the other way around.
Yeah, this is where a lot of people, but I feel like Plumtree looks better off the base.
No, I think
Wainwright's proven he is Wales's best 6.
I think Wainwright
best 8.
is fantastic off the base.
It's not because of the number on the back of his shirt with Plumtree. It's because the personnel he's got around him. When he's got 2 grafters in that back row, he is free to do what he wants. That's why you only ever see one of Plumtree or Fafita having a great game when in the same back row. It's a balance issue. So long as there are 2 proper workhorses, which you would have with Morgan and Wainwright, you could play him 6, 7, 8, whatever you want on his back. He will do whatever you need him to do.
Yeah, I think
as you said, James, the other week, the pack picks itself really. It's actually quite that's probably, I mean, the bench maybe a little bit more discussion with who you put on, but
yeah,
the starting pack, I think, stayed.
I think, yeah, back row wise, I think you want some consistency, and I think Jack Morgan not playing for Wales coming up 400 days now. They've missed that. He's one of the URC's top tacklers. He's a gain line carrier. He's great in the open field. And then Plumtree is really starting to show that raw athleticism. Lives right on the edge. And then Wainwright is a proven outside of Faletau, who, whisper it, I don't think will come back to international rugby. Um,
It's been quiet. I was saying I don't think he comes back to rugby.
yeah.
I was saying this last season. Yeah,
is our best eight, and he's proven that. And let's not forget, injured or not, he's still Wales's best player, as voted by Wales. you know.
I said I think the thing with Wainwright for me though, he's also probably our best proven six as well.
But then back
Depends on
row,
what you want.
Played.
yeah, it depends what you want. If you pick that back row, you're asking Wainwright to you're free. Mark talks about freeing up Plumtree. I think it frees up Wainwright more because it takes the onus off him to just carry, because you've got two other carrying options. It frees him up to maybe stand that a bit wider, playing the wide channels. It frees him up to not be hitting so many rucks, because that's what Plumtree can do. It takes pressure off him to be a line-out option because Plumtree's there. I think it frees up Wainwright to do what he's best at, and that's hit the gain line at pace and cause people and draw in defenders and cause people problems.
Yeah.
So who makes that bench spot?
I'm
going for Revel, just because of his.
I can see the benefits of Revel. I'd probably go. I mean, I don't know. I've got a feeling Gatton would probably go for someone like both and more because of he can do 6, 7, and 8 to varying degrees.
I have issues with Revel, and it is well noted on this podcast. I outside of the breakdown, which he is one of the best in the world at, I think. I think he doesn't offer much in the carry. I think he isn't an amazing defender. I think he's a really solid defender. I don't think he's amazing. I think all his best attributes lie in that breakdown area. I think a team like Fiji, I think you want both of them. I just think you want the versatility. I'm not Jim Botham's biggest fan. I just think in a game like this, you want I think you want versatility, and we know Gatlin likes versatility. So the fact that he can come on if any one of the back row go down, and he's not gonna look out of place. Whereas if you have Raffle, I think you're weakening positions. I think because you limit him to just one place. I think we've moved on. I think there is a place in rugby for the out and out Betcher 7, but I think international rugby is currently at a place where unless you're the best team in the world, you need versatility across your whole team, especially from your bench. Look at Quagga Smith. Look at these players; they can play multiple positions to an amazing standard. I'm not saying Jim Botham is that, but he's definitely one who can play it to test level standard.
Yeah, we've got that versatility already in our back row. I mean, Plumtree can play across it, Jack Moore can play across it, Wainwright, obviously we've already spoken about, is a very good 6'8". In terms of what you've just spoken about Revel and what he's good at, that's the only reason I want him there on the bench. I want him in that last 25 minutes. I want him stopping that Fiji attack, gaining any sort of momentum. That's my reason, and I 100% get the both of them. He covers everything. He gives you that straightforwardness of when you bring in someone off if it's not planned. If you're planning to take Jack Morgan off and Plumtree goes down or Wainwright goes down, there's no reshuffle. It's a straight swap.
Yeah, I say the thing is, I think because we've seen Jack Morgan and Tommy Reffel only works in a very specific circumstance, and it is if you've got a ref who's very loose on the breakdown, you can get away with it. Whereas I feel like if you lose like a Wainwright or Plumtree, have we got someone there who's going to be sliding people down for ref or to go over the ball? Whereas James Botham has shown, I mean, admittedly ULC level more so than test, he doesn't necessarily need those cleaner opportunities. He's quite good adept at hitting the person and getting over himself. So I think he still get that jackal threat. And I think players like actually Elias has been very good at that in the last couple of seasons as well. In coming off the bench, Derry Lake's very good at it. Jack Morgan is a very good turnover merchant. Probably not as out and out good a turnover as Reffel, but I say because of everything else he does. But I do feel like when you move more Jack to 8 or 7 at test level, I think it brings everything down the raw side. For me personally, both of them, but I could see it will with Raffles on the bench. I wouldn't necessarily complain with that. I think they're all equally good. The other option is having someone like maybe Chris Junza as your 20, and then you move Teddy Williams. You have Teddy Williams or Freddie Thomas in there, which for me makes the whole pack a bit light. But that's another one. So shall we move on to the ugly boys at the back?
Yeah.
I think halfbacks I think be very surprised if it isn't Thomas and Anscombe, given all the column inches they've been getting this thing. So I think that's the less interesting one. So for me, the outside backs and the centres, how are everyone feeling for that?
I mean,
so maybe give you what you'd like to see, and what you think we might see.
Go on, Mark. You going? I assume this is going to be a Costello-related rant. So,
well, no, it's not a rant. I mean, if we're talking backs, and I will come into those inside backs, as I'm the opposite. Thomas and Anscombe, my finishers, they would be my bench. And again, like I've said, I'm not bothered about bringing players on after 20, 25 minutes if it's not working. No, I would like to see a Bevan and Costello relationship. I'd like to see how that can flourish. And it's not me dismissing Ben Thomas as a 10. It's just he doesn't play 10. So why put him there? You're just setting him up to fail. Well, he may not fail, but he's not going to hit the heights that someone who plays there regularly will. In terms of 12...
You've been listening to the Scara Central podcast there, Mark, because we basically say the exact same thing.
I've listened to one, and I think that was before the second Scarlet's Cardiff game, which again come way too soon.
Yeah, Cardiff. Just a quick aside into the derbies. Wales have 5 of their 6 derbies done by New Year's Day. That's just way too soon.
Yeah, it is weird. It's a weird setup in the league. I love this league, but there are simple things they can do to fix it, or at least make it better. Back to the centre issue. My 12 is Eddie James. That's dead. That's who I want in there. The way he has played, this opening block for the Scarlets, he's creating line breaks and try assists for fun. He's putting people into space, and that's something that he has shown he can do. And even he's got the size profile that Gatlin likes, and his age in the wrong ways against him because he's got plenty of time left. So it may be a case that Gatlin goes for someone else. My 13 is dependent on how training is going. Now, I've got issues with Grady defensively, especially at 13. If he has shown in this last week and a half, 2 weeks, that he can do that job at 13 effectively, then yeah, I chuck him in. If not, I'm willing to have a look at Llewellyn, who's covering 12 and 13 at the minute for Gloucester.
Yeah, I think so. Anything you want to step in there before I give my 2 cents?
Yeah, I think Eddie James. I think definitely for this Fiji game is a really good chance to show what he's got. I quite like Eddie James. What I think should happen, I think Llewellyn should be in at 13. I'd be concerned about the age profile in terms of relative experience. Be really, interesting to see how Fiji would target that. I think he will go, and again, it will upset people, but I think he'll go Watkin. Unless, right or wrong, that's what I think he'll go, because I think what him and Forshaw have asked him to do is be the defensive leader of that back line, which he does very well for, which I know Mark Jones is what Mark Jones does with him, the Ospreys. And Wales don't have that defensive leader at the minute to lead that line. So I think if you're going to have a young inside centre like Eddie James, I think he pairs it with Watkin. I'm like Mart. I think Grady defensively is still poor positioning more than anything. Like I keep coming back to it, but for those who haven't seen it, go watch Judgment Day last year and watch Mason Grady for the whole game. It's like watching some, like an animal being tested with alcohol and then put out into the street. He's just wandering. Like it's not a slight on Mason. He's been asked to do so many different things, and I think last year, Cardiff didn't benefit from having a full-time defence coach, and he will get better. Like this is not saying that this is him for life, but I think this is Test rugby now, and it's Test rugby where we haven't won a game all year, and you don't win that by having a 13 who doesn't know where to stand. On the 9 and 10 thing, I I think it will be Thomas and Gareth at start. I think continuity wise, it makes sense. I think what you might struggle with is they're being asked to play in a very certain way at Gloucester. A very Gareth, is very
Very
deep in where
Gloucester
he'll
way.
stand. And the Gloucester way, um, so continuity wise, it makes sense, but it'll be interesting to see how Alex King has got them playing. I think his job is equally as under pressure as Gatland's. So yeah, I think he'll go Watkin, and it will upset a lot of people. But I think you just centre is one of them place like prop where inexperience costs you games. I
Yeah.
also I think Costello has a really good chance to uh, step into that damn bigger role where he comes on and makes a difference in a game. I think he's been doing that really well, or he has a potential to do that really well, and it'll build confidence for him. I think ultimately what we want, and we want to avoid a Priestland situation, and as much as I like to wind people up about Scarlets and all that, I don't want to see a young player get flamed. I want him to be successful. Look, he's an Ospreys boy. We got to look after our own. Um, but I think this is a really good way for him to build confidence. He comes on when Gareth Anscombe, is crocked, and he can really step into a game.
Yeah, I certainly agree with the Costello. I think he did get sort of thrown into the deep end a little bit last year, and maybe that's probably knocked his confidence a bit. It didn't help with the injuries as well. And
Yeah,
basically
I
barely
mean,
being fit and then being thrown into World's Six Nations campaign where everything around it was gone to shit as well.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't see him going on. But the only other option I'd see on the bench is if they use Ben Thomas's versatility at 10 and
That
12.
Ben
You might
Thompson
not
will be
see him.
in the 22 jersey for me.
But yeah, I mean, as centres wise, I actually, despite being a Cardiff fan here, I do agree about Mason Grady. I am worried about him positionally defensively. I think as well in terms of attack as well. I think him coming in off the wing gives you a lot more versatility. Despite what everyone thinks of, if you bring a big guy in closer to 12, he's going to be middle. Well, actually, no, you tend to be in a bit more of a fixed position when you're the inside centre. And he was being used as a first receiver, which isn't really his game. Like it's great for an Owen Watkin, and Nick Tompkins, Ben Thomas, Eddie James. They're great. That's the sort of thing they can do. They can distribute, out the back of that first pod. Mason Grady's just that roaming strike runner faction. I think wing's probably the best place for him at the moment. And I said he needs to quote Toby Booth, time in the saddle at 13 to get used to the defensive side of things. Because I think no matter how much you train, until you see pictures live in game situations, you don't know necessarily where to stand, how to defend it. You don't know if you need to push or if you need to shoot up. He is very much, I'm just going to nail the guy in front of me.
Yeah.
That is his defensive thing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But so he needs to get that experience. You don't come preloaded with like Foxy's brain. I mean, there's the room in there for Grady, bless him. But you can't just sort of download all that experience from Foxy into our young 13s for best.
Yeah.
For me, much easier conversation if Joe Roberts was fit. I've made no doubts about it. I think he is our long-term 13. He just is.
I agree.
I think that's a completely uncontroversial statement, to be honest.
Awesome. I'm
As for
looking here.
12, as a 12, I think 12. I think there's something about me that says that Gatland's hinging towards Ben Thomas over him, but then Gatland said things like this before about him being the best back in Wales, and then just picks a big lad.
On
Which,
the
but
on the Joe
in
Roberts
fairness to it,
vindication there, Mark. As an Ospreys fan, I'm not ashamed to say that Scarlets produce really good centre. Like, it's not, we're all fans of our professional clubs, right? And we all love the tribalism. But we do support Wales as well. As much as frustrating as WRU are and how shit we are at the minute, you know, I like. I hope Tame Plumtree does well for Wales. I hope Joe Roberts comes back and makes that a 13 jersey his own. Don't be wrong. I hope he's shit. Gets a red card
Yeah,
against
exactly.
us. Exactly that. But for Wales, I think everyone wants to be successful, and every Ospreys fan I know said we'd snap Joe Roberts up in a heartbeat. He's that type of player you want. So as much as I hate the Scarlets, I want their players individually to do well for Wales. Just not for Scarlets. Fuck them.
Yeah, obvious. Same
Mm.
everywhere.
Hope Jack Price's
Yeah.
pillow is warm on both sides.
that's great. Moving on to back three. So I've sort of hinted I'd be tempted to put Grady on one wing again, big fast lad, a la Cuff, but I think otherwise go with the incumbents for now with Rio and win it, and then you bring someone like a Blair Murray off, or do you think one of them? Or do you
I think
one, both, all three?
you've got to have,
Different
as
thoughts.
much as you want our best attacking wingers, right? We've got to understand the scope of our opposition. In that we're playing against Fiji, so we need our best defensive wingers. Now, who are our best defensive wingers? Well, Josh Adams is one. He's not in the squad. And who is the other one? Who is going to be our best defensive winger? And you can argue Blair Murray could be in there, but is he going to throw him in straight away? Rio Dyer for me has not been playing well at the Dragons. Josh Hathaway, but he's young. I don't even know who else is in the squad.
I
Go
mean,
Wing.
back three options.
Rogers
That's
there,
it.
no couple.
Oh,
Yeah,
Tom Rogers.
Tom
Though I still
Rogers.
think he's
Yeah.
being wasted on the wing at Scarlets. I still think the best we saw him was when he played fullback.
So I think he will go Dyer and just put a name in there because I think there's no one else. My issues with Winnett not going forward and under the high ball, I think he's great. I think defensively, I just have some questions.
Yeah.
Hoping that's more just Cardiff system being really shonky at the moment.
Maybe.
More than anything.
I
I
mean,
think as well, you don't want to chuck too many people who haven't been playing there before.
Agree.
yeah. I mean, I think he sticks with what we were trying in the summer in terms of having Winnett, Hathaway, and Dyer. I think that's probably the safe move for this game. I probably expect to see a different that Hathaway shirt, that 11 shirt. I think that's going to swap between him, Blair Murray, and Tom Rogers for these 3 games. I think safe to say that Winnett and Dyer will probably start all 3. Now, in terms of continuity and in building players up, Winnett has got to stay at 15. It's pointless throwing him aside now. That this is the same sort of conversation I have with with other players. Like I'm saying about Matthias earlier, he needs a minute. He should be given that. Azarati needs more starts over this next season. So in terms of not just the 15, the actual development of a squad, Winnett needs to stay at 15. He needs this season. And then we can start looking at, either he doesn't have to start every game, obviously, but these 3 and probably the Six Nations before we even start thinking about moving someone else. Obviously, injuries aside, we need boys playing minutes. I mean, Gatland has said you can't coach experience. I mean, it's brilliant him saying that, but when he's giving 20 boys 10 caps at 10 minutes apiece, it doesn't exactly work, does it? And then you see a player, he's got bloody 20 caps. Why we not seeing much of him? And he's only got like 3 games worth of minutes under his belt. So yeah, Winnett and Dyer,
Very much
like
the Pivac thing.
yeah,
The
yeah,
Pivac under Wales thing as well, yeah, with the revolving door.
yeah. I mean, Dyer, he's a solid international. I don't think he's in terms of tier 1 rugby and, those sort of international wingers, I don't think he's in that category. I think, he can come into our squad, he can come into a 23, but we need better. Now, I don't think anyone else is better than him who's available right now. And, in terms of the newer boys, Blair Murray, Hathaway, obviously Roger's been in and out of form. We haven't seen from them yet, so Dyer does get that position. I do want to see Murray. I do want to see what he's like at an international level. That's going to be something fun to experience. And I think Fiji is, the best option for these new players, a chance to really show a bit of attacking edge, show what you can do, especially if you're in those outside backs.
And it'll certainly work out what their defensive mechanism made of anyway, because Fiji will ball. And I don't know if you guys watched the game against Scotland, but even when they were, their discipline cost them a lot. I don't think Wales will struggle to put them under the same sort of pressure Scotland did. But when they did get hold of the ball for extended periods, their phase play is really good.
I don't even think Scotland put them under pressure. I think they just capitulated because of a lack of leadership on the field. I think what you'll see...
I feel like that first 20 minutes, I think Scotland did. I mean, I think by the end of the game, it was more capitulation. But I think that first 20, I think was...
I think that we'll see a hugely physical side who will look to play around the edges a lot. They will flash back to that short. So that's why I'm on about your wingers have to be really on it defensively, because they will just be constantly tested. The new laws for high balls now obviously allowing access. We all heard the word access this weekend. That will be really interesting to see how are Fiji going to look at to have a go at can win it in the air. Again, we'll come back to the breakdown. Where are Fiji going to not necessarily target the jackal, but are they going to flood the breakdown? Wales have been quite poor around that contact area. So I'm not saying this is a litmus test for where Gatland is, but has he taken the learnings from the summer, and is he gonna put that foot forward? Because now he has to show that he's a coach that can adapt, because he can't rely on a golden generation to keep pushing him through and drip feeding players. Now he's got to show that as an international coach that he can adapt to what's in front of him, and that's an ever-changing squad that has to play a different style, right? That's what he needs to show now. So has he taken what went well in the autumn, that's in the summer, sorry, and can he apply it to two very winnable games and then the South Africa game? That's what he's got to show.
Yeah, I mean, I've said repeatedly I don't rate Gatland as a coach. He is only as good as his assistants. Rob Howley carried him in the club game. Howley and Sean Edwards carried him with Wales. You just look at his record in other places, and you can see when his assistants are not, top class. Things do struggle, and I think that's the position we're in. It depends on how good Alex King will be. Especially if we're looking at the attacking side, that's going to depend how good we are going forward.
Me, it starts even more basic than that, because I feel I've been feeling like Humph has been steaming living somewhat with how
I'm just giving up on that fight now. I've genuinely given up on that fight.
How like utterly variable things like the scrum and the lineup are with sometimes even the same personnel. I do wonder, and then again being blown away at ruck time and stuff. I do think some of our forward play isn't being as good as it could be. I mean, you feel free to agree to disagree, but I do think But going back on your point, Mark, Gatland's, you himself has admitted he's always prided himself on being more of the man management side of things. I think he's been failing at that woefully as well, but that's for another pod. But yeah, I'm not being too enamored with some of the coaches.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk, about this game, I think we have touched on it, but Fiji will be a totally different team. We're probably going to see 10 different faces in that starting 15. So this is definitely not the same when we saw against Scotland. There's literally only going to be a sprinkling of those players. So it's essentially a new test. It's a new team. Okay. And it's going to be exciting to watch, because Fiji are always exciting, especially when they get on the front foot. But yeah, so who's got a prediction? Do you do score predictions on you, or is it just win-loss?
No, we do score. Well, we do by a certain amount.
Yeah, we do win loss by X amount normally.
We don't do
it's not so
specific.
bad.
But we're not writing it for our league during the internationals. This is more for fun. No points being kept for this one.
It's a shame. I could have gone something really sinister then.
Well, to really tank Lee's predictions.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure he said I can take over his. I'd say Wales, but like 60 or something, just to really put him off course. Like,
I'll be honest, that would be a very Lee prediction as well. So,
oh great. So I can't put him off course then.
I don't know. It somehow was working for him the last couple of weeks. It got very weird and uncanny.
It's faith that brings you that far. That's how I got over the boys when it came to the Scarlets and Bulls match. You just believe, and eventually it'll pay you out once in 100.
No, anyone who predicted Cardiff to win against Glasgow does not have faith. They have a mental illness. Go on then. So what's your serious prediction then for this game? And do you want to discuss how you think the game's going to go? What tactics either you'd like to see or that you think we'll use?
I mean, again, it's going to depend on the 15 that turns up on the day. We can guess as to who it's going to be, but realistically, we get curveballs all the time, and we've spoken. Like I said, I like to see Costello at 10. You boys pretty sure it's going to be Anscan, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Thomas ended up there. That's the sort of thing we're looking at. You need to manage that first 20 minutes. It's basic rugby. You've just got to manage the periods well. Fiji, we know how fast they are. We know how big they are. They're going to come out firing as fast as they can. It's literally just managing those parts of the game. Game management is absolutely key, which I understand why it lends more to Thomas. Just simple stuff, playing the right parts of the field. Don't put yourself under unnecessary pressure, which we've all done this season. And I mean, if we're going to go back to Watkin, he that was a planned howler. He just weren't happy with Max Page having a fast try this season, But yeah, I'll go Wales by 6 because I'm stupid enough to believe that Wales can do it. And yeah, I just want to see. I want to see us play the Welsh way. I want to see some flair. Yeah. I want to see some flair. I want to see us, play the way we can play. Like, one game I've always loved of Wales was that World Cup group game again. Was it a group game? No, the New Zealand Wales game in the 03 World Cup. Just the way we played in that game. That's even if we're losing, that's the way I want to see us playing.
I won't settle for any Wales win. I will go I'll go Wales by 8. But I wouldn't be surprised if we lost. With regards to how I want us to play, I just want us to be effective in what we do. Wales have always been their best even when they throw it about, or when they keep it tight, it's just being effective at what they do. When George North was scoring tries for fun, it was not because he was a maverick who created things, is because the system around him worked and allowed him to play really well. Because Doc was getting over the gain line, because Foxy was able to get on the outside of people. You look at Cuthbert's tries, oftentimes it comes from him being in midfield, because the way we played allowed Cuthbert to cut through. There's big emphasis on how the line-out goes. Has Humph got over his weird calls? Scrum against Fiji is always an interesting one, because it can go one of two ways, where Fiji will give away penalties, or it will be a really interesting contest. So I'll go Wales by 8, but it's not a confident 8. It's very much not.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think for me, we've just got to pick an identity. Like, Gatland's been accused of changing his game plan almost week on week, and we don't really know what he wants his second Wales team to do. And even if it was going back to ball and Gatland, I'd be nice just for him to. More of the thing of the autumn is if we know what we're playing, and we know, and then you sort of know, right, this is what we expect these players to be picking. But if he's going horses courses all the time, then it's really hard to see even the team building up anything out of it. I said, with the likes of Maui and, you got Maui Neislevu, Semi Randrandra, and Josh Tuasova coming in. There's some very good firepower in there. I think with the kicking game in the air, I think maybe we could target them, but I mean, it's not like Fijians are terrible because they're just such good athletes. I think Mark's just about giving me enough positivity, so I think I'm going to go with Wales by 3. I think I'm going to hate the whole experience of it, but I think Wales can just. I mean, other than 2007 and that draw when we did a heavily rotated side, I think when we pick a first choice team, we usually have just about enough of them. There's usually enough of a game plan and some doggedness to win. But I mean, it could come down to a few referees' interpretations. I think it's the old cliche, but for me, if we've got a performance that we can stick a hat and say, right, this is what we're building from now. This is a squad that Gatlin seems to have picked where he's done most of his experimenting now. Now he's settling down on who his squad are going to be. Let's get through that. That's going to be my very, very hard thing. So I'm going to go, said Wales by 3. And unless anyone has anything else they want to say about Wales versus Fiji, the autumn in general, the Irk, Kidwelly under 7s, I don't know.
No. On the note, being as though I'm not doing the sidestep and Sauceman sides, I keep getting mixed up. Honestly, it's 3 seasons, 3 different name changes. It's going mad. If I'll touch on the community, the Youth Cup, Plate, Shield, and Draw. A draw? What's the last one called now? Cup, Plate, Bowl, Shield. Yeah, there's 4 now this season. So the Youth National Cup competitions kick off this weekend. So if you know a youth team around, you're looking for something to do on Saturday, because most people who follow professional rugby in Wales will be. Find your local team, go down and have a watch.
Yeah. The only thing I have to say is Wales Fiji will be kicking off 1:00 on Sunday. So that's Sunday, not Saturday, because of the way TNT have wanted to split up the games. And it'll be on TNT Sports 1. I don't know if S4C have got coverage.
Yeah, they do.
Through their
they have Wales coverage.
Is that going to be live or as live on the delay?
I think so.
Yeah.
Right, cool.
Pretty
So
sure
you've also got that if you really can't stand the TNT Sports comms, which I haven't watched a lot of Premiership. I fully understand.
I don't fancy chucking away 30-odd quid for 1 month either.
That's fine. I bought it. I got it. I get it for like 10 quid a month on my BT deal, and I don't want to change it because it makes my internet cheaper. Or was that on Virgin? And I just really didn't want to pay for Virgin down by me. So it's quite good. It gives you Discovery Plus as well. So I've got an absolute bargain, and I'm not changing it.
Happy days.
All right, what's left? So I think that's everything. So thank you all for listening. Thank you, James, as ever, and thank you for stepping in, Mart. And one reminder: if you enjoyed this, please do like, share, subscribe, and enjoy your rugby.
That was RAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.